Hello everybody, so I've had a request from a subscriber earlier this week. Is it possible for me to explain a little bit about how to use the hit attributes, or in this case we're going to look at how to collect the information for hit attributes when particles collide with another object. And at first you might be thinking, what the hell am I talking about? It's quite a big subject. It can be anyway and can be used in a lot of ways. So I just want to touch on some of the basics of how to collect that information, and at other lessons later on we'll talk about maybe how to use them a bit more. But let's take a quick look at it. So first of all, every time I have my objects colliding, so my particles colliding here, and this is just the same lesson as we've had in the previous one, so if you don't know what's going on here, just go back to the previous lesson and we'll look at that. The only difference I've done is I've removed the ground plane here, and there's an obvious reason for that which I can explain later on, but it makes it easier to explain how the hits work with the collision. So let's move this down a little bit. There we go, and that's where we left off at the end of the last lesson. I'm just looking at this in wireframe at the moment. Now let's this time go into our pop solver, collision behavior, and you'll see that there's this thing about the hit attributes. What the hell is hit attributes? It's basically trying to look at what happens when this particle collides with this plane here, this box here, right? Now, in order to know which particles are involved in here, let me turn on the color hits. And now what it's going to do is the moment that it hits an object, these should turn red. So let's have a look. There we go. Nice. All right. Now, what's the point of that? Well, the point is really for debugging purposes and also for visualization purposes when you're using these collision behaviors. They won't come up like this inside of your renders, at least I don't believe they do. They're just for visualization purposes solely in your viewport. But it's going to help us right now, because let's take a quick look. Let's move in a little bit. And I want to first of all start with, I think we'll start with the collide group, okay? So let's open that. I want to create a group. At the moment, if I go in here, you'll see there's no group for this, it's just this group here. So I want to create a group called collision or collide, let's call it collide group. All right. And now this time when I open this, I can see I've got this collide group and it's got 0 points in this. And let me do that. Now the reason is that it will only add the points, the red ones, as soon as they hit the object, right? So I've got here, let me see how many points I've got. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I refresh this in this little button here, there we go, I've got 5 points added to it. Let's go forward a few more frames. Now I've got a whole bunch of them. And if I refresh, I've now got 667. It's going up pretty quickly. And all of these points have been added to this. I'm going to remove that there a minute. I'm going to remove into a group, which will be in here. There it is. And 0 means it's not in the group, of course, and 1 means it is. How is that useful? Well, we'll find out in later lessons, but it basically allows me to add all of that information into a group that I can later do something with, whatever that might be that I want to do. Okay. So another thing to do is look at the response here, and I almost forgot all about this, which is one of the most important things with it, really. Okay, so here I can see unchanged, this response here, unchanged, it does nothing, of course. It's exactly the same as it was before. But let's say I want to change this to die. This means that the moment it hits the object, the particle will no longer exist. It's gone forever. So if we go there, we can see that they just simply die. They never turn red. They're gone. Let's take a look at the next one, which is stop. Let's go with stick first of all. So this one of course does exactly as it says in the tin. As soon as it hits the collision object, it just sticks to the surface. The stop one at first glance looks very similar, but there is a slight difference which we can't really see here. But what it does is it stops the moment it collides with anything. So it can also collide with its other particles. Now let's imagine if you had a small sphere connected to every single particle here. They're all going to start to collect and bunch up here. Now there might be a reason why you'd want that, but I think for our purposes we'll stick with the stick. There you go. We'll stick with the stick for now, as this would make more sense as we don't really have any other geometry attached to that. And lastly we'll look at slide, and slide just goes down the object, of course. Now you might be thinking, so what's the difference between slide and unchanged? Looks like nothing, but there is a difference. Do you remember in the last lesson we looked at how to make this slide without a bounce? If you can think back how to change that, because now I want to add some bounce to that. And the answer of course was to go to our static object. Here the bounce is 0, which is the reason why it slides. So I want to increase my bounce. Let's maybe make it 0.8. Let's see what that's like. Alright, now we can see that I've got that bounce there. So now if I go back into my pop solver and I want to this time go to, let's select that, slide. Let's go back. I can now see that it doesn't bounce. Okay, so the slide attaches itself to the surface and will simply slide around on it. The unchanged, of course, in this case is allowing my bounce, there we go, is allowing my bounce attribute to be red, and in this case it's 0.8. All right. Now another thing that happens is, let me open the geometry spreadsheet, is the moment that you add the hit attribute, let me go back again, it's actually on by default. Let me turn that off, probably a better way. And you can see that I've got a bunch of attributes. I've got the position, the life of the point, and the velocity, and all kinds of other information there. But that's all there is, right? Just that. Now if I go to my add hit attributes and I open that up, I always do that, okay, and I open that up, I can now see that I've got a bunch more stuff. I've got all these hit attributes, okay, here and here, the hit position, the hit primitive, the hit time, the hit total, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, right? So you might be wondering, what the heck is all this? I also wonder that sometimes. So let me just select the hit attributes in here so it's easier to see them. So these are all the hit attributes. All of these appear the moment that you select this on. Okay. Now let me move this down a little bit, and now I'm adding some information to this. And I can see now that these numbers have started to populate. Before they were all on 0. Now I'm starting to get some information, and let me again open that. Alright, so go down, and now I've got some information, and I can see here this thing hit position, and it just creates the number and we're done. And what this means is that this is the exact position in space where this particle collides with the box, with the object, and it just puts that information in there and leaves it, okay, for you to do something with it later with a bit of luck, right? It's very different from the position. Now if I put in the position, let me just do that there, I can see that the position and the hit point are different. The reason is that the position will be moving all the time. You can see it is me pointing at the screen. I can see that this position is constantly moving, right? But the hit point only collects that piece of information. Sorry, not hit point, hit position, where exactly it hits that collision, that box, and that's it. So they're quite different. Okay, let's look at some others that are in there. Okay, we also have the hit time. This is in seconds. This is exactly the moment that it hit the collision object. All right, and you can see here that all of them are hitting around the same time, but as we go down, we will get, let me go more than a second. Okay, so now we're getting over a second when they hit, but these ones here are of course less than a second. And we've got things like the hit velocity here. That will only show something if the collision object is actually moving. And we've also got this hit total, and at the moment it's just hitting one object. But if it hits a number of things, a number of times, this will start to add up, and we can use that information for something again later on. And actually I think I'll probably make a lesson soon explaining how you can use this at a later point. So that's probably all I want to show you for today. I'm trying to keep these lessons as short as possible. So the main thing that we've covered is the response, which you can already use, right? And the other information is how to collect the hit information and the group. So you can collect both of them. And in future lessons, we'll look at what to do with that information once you've got it. But for now, I just want you to understand how to collect that. All right? Hope that was somehow useful. You guys be good, have a great day, and I'll speak to you all again very soon.